blame Lyndall entirely for this. She wants me to do 22 push-ups for PTSD and for soldiers committing suicide, which is dreadful. I'm not by any means a PTSD expert, but what I am is a history expert. Well, I pretend to be a history expert. And so instead of nominating someone every day, I thought I'd give some figures and some statistics that might have been glazed over, particularly in Australian history, but in world history as well. That gives some insight into how these things come about. And if anybody that's actually in the armed forces or has experience working with PTSD wants to contact me and comment on them, they can. So I'm going to start real broad to do with various armed conflicts, and we'll get narrower and narrower and narrower, specifically to the diaries of some World War I soldiers. But firstly, there's a great quote by a guy named Dan Carlin, who's my favourite historian. He does hardcore history, the blueprints for Armageddon, about the First World War. And he quotes Napoleon, and he says, Napoleon says, "You cannot beat me. I spend 50,000 lives a month." And that's really interesting, because Dan Carlin talks about the First World War being when we stopped trying to defeat each other's armies, when we stopped trying to defeat each other's armed forces, and we started to try and break entire nations as that happened. And he estimates in some phases of the land war in Europe, in the trenches in the Eastern and Western Front, that figure of 50,000 a month was actually more like 50,000 a day through the various artillery barrages and machine gun fire, and generals who learnt how to be generals and learnt their military tactics on horseback and just were giving orders to troops with no idea about how to deal with machine guns and trenches, and people would just get mowed down again and again and again and again. 50,000 a day. And now apparently I have to do some push-ups, so thank you, Wendell, for this. And you're going to have to put up with my history rants for 21 more days.